Hello, everyone, and welcome to Performance Anxiety's 23rd online reading event. My name is Tom Snarsky, and I'm so excited to be hosting this utterly stellar group of readers tonight. In case you haven't listened in before, Performance Anxiety is an online reading series hosted via Skype, usually on the third Thursday of every month at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. At each of our events, we normally feature as many as 10 readers who each have around 5 minutes. Tonight, it will fortunately for us be a little bit longer than that, to share a selection of their writing with us and with you, our internet audience. Having all these slots every month means we're always looking for folks who would be interested in reading. So if you are or know a poet or writer who'd be interested in performing their work at a future event, please get in touch with us. We have a Performance Anxiety Twitter account at PerformanceANXT, but you can also DM us, the co-organizers, directly. I'm at Tom Snarsky, TomSnarsky, on Twitter and Instagram, or you can email me at tomsnarsky@gmail.com with your interest in reading. You can also get in touch with Kristin Garth, our other co-organizer, whose contact info I'll share when I introduce her as our second reader of the evening. But first, I'm very excited to introduce our first reader, a new reader at Performance Anxiety, but somebody whose poetry and tweets I've been following for quite some time with excitement, and that's Michael Chang. Michael Chang is a Lambda Literary Fellow. Their pronouns are they, them, and they were awarded the Kundiman Scholarship at the Miami Writers Institute. A finalist in contests at the Iowa Review, Bomb, Night Block, and many others, their poems have been nominated for Best of the Net and the Pushcart Prize. Their full-length collection is forthcoming from Really Serious Literature, and their collection Drakkar Noir won the Bateau Press Boom Chapbook Contest. Other projects will soon be announced. Thanks so much for joining us, Michael. Take it away.
Thanks for having me. Thanks to meet everyone, and it's great to be here. And I haven't decided what to read. I think I'll read something I haven't read before. It's kind of longish, so I'll read that and see how much time we have. It's definitely one of the more political poems. So we can get started. It's called Zero. Decades ago, then Director of Central Intelligence Roscoe Hilton Cotter testified before Congress on why homosexuals or other moral perverts should not serve in positions of public trust. This bigotry quickly spread to the entirety of the federal government and became official United States policy. Heterosexuality is so brazen. 1. Homosexuals experience emotions as strong and, in fact, actually stronger than heterosexual emotions. 2006 and you're still skinny. You don't show up at camp. We go to Dairy Queen for vanilla soft serve. 2. Homosexuals are susceptible to domination by aggressive personalities. You say, take risks with your writing, but write about Sunday roasts and farmers markets. I steal your vodka. 3. Homosexuals have psychopathic tendencies which affect the soundness of their judgment, physical cowardice, susceptibility to pressure, and general instability, thus making a pervert vulnerable in many ways. Blowhard boasts about being recruited by the CIA right out of college. Aren't you a fag? Someone says. Blowhard stops in his tracks, considers his gay partner, his gay chickens, his gay life. He sheds a tear. 4. Homosexuals invariably express considerable concern about concealing their condition. You like Snoopy, and I don't know why. We've had a good run, 10 years. We hope for better things. 5. Homosexuals are promiscuous and often visit various hangouts of his brethren, marking a definite similarity to other illegal groups, such as criminals, smugglers, black marketeers, dope addicts, and so forth. I will create a poem so Chinese. Oh, you're off to see your sleeve of wizard. 6. Homosexuals with outward characteristics of femininity or lesbians with male characteristics are often difficult to employ because of their effect on their co-workers, officials of other agencies, and the public in general. Penetrate your layers, lick those pores clean. I am befuddled. Get on the tables. The floor is lava. 7. Homosexuals who think they are discreet are in reality actually quite indiscreet. They are too stupid to realize it, or else due to inflation of their ego or through not letting themselves realize the truth, they are usually the center of gossip, rumor, derision, and so forth. Show me your seat of majesty, your theory of beauty. Hell for you, go to hell. 8. Homosexuals who try to drop the gay life and go straight eventually revert to type. I creep on your friends' IGs to catch glimpses of you. Come on, I'll fatten you up, Hansel and Gretel. 9. Homosexuals are extremely vulnerable to seduction by another pervert employed by that purpose by a foreign power. Like a champion greyhound, I'll run till my lungs collapse. 10. Homosexuals are extremely defiant in their attitude towards society, which could lead to disloyalty. He is slow as molasses, but burns bright as a hot plate through oven mitts. 11. Homosexuals usually seem to be extremely gullible. Thinking about David Beckham and his Minnie Mouse voice, shush, baby, let me in. 12. Homosexuals, including even the most brazen perverts, are constantly suppressing their instincts, which causes considerable tension. I am not perfect. For example, I sometimes have ingrown nails and eat so much lasagna my eyes seal shut. 13. Homosexuals employed by the government lead to the concept of a government within a government. One pervert brings other perverts. They belong to the lodge, the fraternity. One pervert brings other perverts into an agency and advance them usually in the interest of furthering the romance of the moment. Children are taught how to ostracize. They learn how to hate. For example, I know nothing about sports, but I hate Cleveland sports. We need a government where we don't have to depend on the mercy of bureaucrats or the kindness of strangers. Christen me with your loins as I salute death. That's it.
Fantastic, Michael. Thank you. You have time if you'd want to read any more work too.
Oh,
We would love to hear more. That was fantastic.
I'll read one. It's pretty short. It's broken up into sections. It's called Area Code 886. She had a boyfriend named Henry, and I wanted one too. He waited for her after class, and I wanted that too. Subtle is not in my vocabulary. No free lunch. What's that fancy word to describe nostalgia for something you've never experienced? Anyway, I swear I lived in late 80s Taipei, right after martial law was lifted, made a living writing poems on postcards, not rich, but I had a black Mercedes. I'm haunting and powerful, you're daring and strange, my intelligence so fluid and crystallized you want to lick it. You say you're communist, but you're swelling like colonial ambition. You may be an unfeeling capitalist, but you really have a way with words. I hope you don't take offense, but you're dressed like the Aga Khan. I'll buy what you're selling, two in each color. Everywhere you go, you litter the world, a trail of broken hearts. I know you're trying your absolute hardest, but I just can't get there. I think I overdid it with the Wiener Schnitzel. You shouldn't have rubbed that lemon in my eyes. At one point or another, I could watch entire planets get obliterated and feel nothing. Dead Martians everywhere. I won't even look up from my fucking cereal. You're throbbing in me like an underground poker game. Stop being judgmental. Ariana Rain stole our heirlooms, tried to sell them back for $5. I refused, told her I'm your favorite poet's favorite poet. If what you give me is the same as what you give everyone else, I don't want it. Osmosis. That's it.
Spectacular. Thank you so much, Michael, and thank you for dipping into the encore set.
Thank you.
That again was Michael Chang, who you can find on Twitter at mchangpoet, MCHANGPOET. And please keep an eye out for their books that are forthcoming. Again, Drakkar Noir won the Bateau Press Boom Chapbook Contest and is forthcoming. And Boyfriend Perspective, which I believe, Michael, is your full length, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Yeah, so that Boyfriend Perspective is forthcoming from Really Serious Literature. So we're off to a fabulous start. And I'm very excited to introduce as our second reader someone who is also the co-organizer of Performance Anxiety, who updated her bio because recently she reached the 20 book number, which I was like totally flabbergasted by and deeply impressed with, as I am with all her work. That's Kristin Garth. And Kristin Garth is the author of 20 books of poetry, including Flutter Southern Gothic, Fever Dream, The Meadow, Candy Cigarette Woman Child Noir, and Girlarium. She's published Shakespearean sonnets in magazines like Glass, Yes, and Barron. She's the dollhouse architect of Pink Plastic House, a tiny journal, and has a weekly sonnet podcast called Kristin Whispers Sonnets. Visit her site, kristingarth.com, which is KristinGarth.com, and you can find her on Twitter at Lola and Jolie, LOLAANDJOLIE. Take it away, Kristin. Thanks as always for being here.
Thanks. I just had Girlarium accepted yesterday, so I am going to read a couple of poems from that. It's going to be coming out with Famadan Press, and this poem is called Gill Girl. Cut you camouflage with hair, secret you are aware, perforations of the neck, gangrene at first you suspect. Mottled hue imbues a metallic sheen, genuflect in horror what they mean. What hides behind your honey hair? Longer each day, to part, prepare, arrange an exit, sides brush straight. Groom not for vanity's sake, but to prevaricate. By blue lips you are betrayed. Matte lipstick cannot save the day. Bottled water, not to drink, poured over until in bath you sink. Flesh rosy pink, you grow gills, amphibious instincts. And this one's called Driftwood. This is when Gilda Sheen has to run away. This is the whole book is really about kind of body horror, but also not just skills, but like learning your sexuality is different and processing that as well. And she has to run away from society, and she makes a decision to go to a marine collector's house, and it's a very bad mistake. But anyway, this is called Driftwood. What do you pack when you are leaving land? To submerge in wet depths a young girl should not understand. Band upon your left hand, stone serpentine, sea green lace dress, driftwood, valentine, whittled by grandfather when you were a child. Norse legend says humans were hewn, ash and elm, drifting wild in wind, whims, waves of Nordic seas. Attention span then inhibits these childhood memories. Believe your heart might also be reclaimed by oceans you can't even name, flighty student of geography when you were tame. What is the etiquette 16 feet down? What do you wear when you're going to drown? And I'm going to read a poem that I wrote about the show Servants, because I've been writing a lot of sonnets about this show because I'm just obsessed with it. And it's called Where's Your Fucking Doll? You will remember the rotting of meat, the flies through plate glass, Philadelphia heat, rain steaming concrete as you beat upon windows though no one appears. The elder sister you have nurtured for years is catatonic somewhere inside. Your younger eyes verify what has died. Peer into a crib, below shears of lace, gore you remember in lieu of a face. Grace bequeathed by baby doll. Your sister forgets every horror she saw, replaced with vinyl, blue-washed veins. Truth is whispered inside a dollhouse of pain. You in its thrall, servant of delusion, where's your fucking doll? And then I have another book that's coming out later this year. It's been a little bit delayed because Hedgehog poetry is going through some things right now, but it's come in. Also, lockdown in England has not been easy for them. So, but anyway, my book Puritan You, Succubus Alumnus, is coming out, and it has a lot to do with my past, and it's memoir, and so I'm going to say content warning on this about child abuse, but it's also about this is also after the movie Magnolia. But it did happen, and they will bring you medicine. Bald spots, beige suits, the other ones, averting eyes, grind teeth between pink cotton polka dots. You sniff their bouquets, poppies, powderized, to chase away forget-me-nots that look like cocks, uncircumcised, hooded ghosts, preteen host with lubrication from the eyes. A shock of pornographic memories, they dose you until tears are even upside down. Skull rain through sockets, pestilence of frogs. Another thing you swallow silent, pound their violence inside a man-made fog. They wait until you are anesthetized. Avoid what's childish peeks from dead brown eyes. And I'm going to read one more, I'm going to read a poem called Blur that they're also Hedgehog is making a tiny little book for me called Blur. Matriculated many months ago from frenetic faux fellatio, pupil you never wanted me to be, follows a blur beneath black locust trees. I lost my place. Fertile a couple of weeks a year before reason reappears, careless with pigtailed pioneers, fuck dolls with dank eyes sewn shut by demons you cannot confront. They all disappear with sustenance of blooms when the season requisition tombs decorated in pastels, halo for the harlot heathen you once knew well. From grave I hide within to masticate upon my own hunger. I masturbate until it's all a blur. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kristin. As always, thank you for holding down the fort of performance anxiety with us. And that again was Kristin Garth, who you can find on Twitter at Lola and Jolie, LOLAANDJOLIE. And you can talk to her about her work, but also about performing on performance anxiety. Please, if like me, you have trouble keeping up with all the amazing stuff Kristin is working on at any given time, you can find all of her stuff, all of her work, websites, books, other publication efforts. That's the duck timer, which Kristin deeply respected, so I didn't even need to do anything. But her website is kristingarth.com, KristinGarth. Awesome. So without any further ado, we're already to our third reader of the evening. Time is flying when the poems are flying, and that is Nick Bond. Nicholas Bond once lived in Tallahassee, but now mostly lives online. They're the founder of Epigraph Magazine and the author of My Circus Mouth, available from Ghost City Press. Their poems have been featured in Juked, Heavy Feather Review, Witchcraft Magazine, and elsewhere. Nick, thank you so much. We're excited to have you live at Performance Anxiety. Take it away.
Thank you so much for having me. I pulled out a selection of poems that I felt like reading, and I will kind of probably make it to order as I go along. So this first one is called The Biodigester is a Machine Similar to a Pressure Cooker. I've placed a small table in the corner of my white room. There is no meaning to be found in these details, as most rooms are white, as most rooms have corners, as a table is so expected in a home. Most of the details that make up a day might as well be cloth lining a jacket that hangs unworn in the back of a closet. I watched the video in a psychology class, but I failed to see the man in the gorilla suit pass through the frame. We're all preoccupied with other things. Benjamin Franklin said there will be plenty of time to sleep once you are dead. But have you ever stood in silence and watched a heaving body die? A horse can weigh 2,000 pounds, and to bury one is a profound task. Many jurisdictions require the burial site to be no fewer than 100 yards from wells, streams, and other water sources. I try to imagine what it must feel like in a final moment, what the mind might decide to ruminate on. I've never died before, so I don't quite know what it's like. Keep in mind, the law states, that not all municipal landfills will accept carcasses. That was sort of based on talking to someone whose father at one point had to deal with a dead horse, amongst other things. This next one I'm going to read is called, this one's called It's Never Just a Cacophony of Flowers. If America is beautiful, it must be somewhere in the seams. Here, let me give you an example. I drive by the same collapsing cat's body every day. The pressure on my chest feels like the devil's hand must. It's like I can't even breathe anymore. I'm only trying to understand myself. I'm trying to carve my own face out of a larger face, my giant mask made of stone. I wear my sleeves on my heart to keep it safe from the terrible sun. I can't even remember what all I've forgotten. When it rains, we can pretend that the water weighing down our clothes has meaning, that there's a reason for these experiences. Sometimes the morning is just the sound of a record player buried under ice. The floor opens up. The sky closes. A pack of wolves are running somewhere. 2 people live in a small room, but I don't know their names. Honestly, I'm afraid that one of them is me. I smash the glass, dig a trench, set a fire. I put a record on and it repeats. Later, we'll laugh about this. I think about all the places where I wasn't born. Later, we'll laugh about this. Remember when we spilled our drinks and we made an ocean? We knew even then that we only broke what we couldn't replace, that every plan is just another step towards an exit. It's amazing how we always seem to leave everything unfinished. There's nothing that we can do that can't be avoided. Another website asked me to choose a password. Another website asked me to enter my email. Another asked me who I am. I drive to work in the dark at 4:30 a.m. as George Thorogood sings one bourbon, one scotch, one beer. The light on the street looks like dirty water. I feel like a pitcher feels when the glasses are full and everyone is laughing and enjoying how it all continues on and on and on in whatever cycle it's stuck. It's all a series of locked grooves. 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 People enter and leave your life in ways you don't question. Who mourns the natural fate of decay? That slow progression of unanswered emails and being too busy and I'm sorry, I forgot. Maybe, after nothing is left, there will finally be room for us. Picture a sci-fi movie where 2 characters occupy a small room. One breathes oxygen while the other survives solely on carbon dioxide. They must sync their breathing precisely in order to survive. And let's see. The next one I'm going to read, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to read this one called Nothing. Nothing Will Keep Us Together. And the basic idea of this is I wrote this as a sort of a tribute to a song that features feedback. I like guitar feedback and writing about it. And so the gimmick here is that the end of the poem feeds back into the first part of the poem, which is why it goes like that. And hopefully the beginning of the poem will answer the end of the poem and so on and so on. But anyway, this is called Nothing. Nothing Will Keep Us Together. Bowie's Heroes. Robert Fripp recorded 3 takes of his guitar line, and it was only after Tony Visconti decided on a whim to play all 3 of the guitar tracks simultaneously that they realized what the song wanted to be. I think about how much of our lives we might refer to as happy accidents, how no one really has a plan. To be honest, I'm not interested in a house. I'm not interested in the physical structure of a house. I'm only interested in the linguistic representation of a house and the ways we might choose to talk about it. But we don't talk about houses. We both live in apartments, and no one can afford a plot of land. I will knife open my chest to hand you my heart, but I won't lose any blood. That was never what was at stake. You once told me that everyone is more beautiful in the winter, but I can't prove this. I can only retell it in my designated role as stenotype machine. There is nothing left to write about, so I will devote myself with religious fervor to the art of cliché. I'll learn my techniques from the greeting card makers, write sappy poems for everyone I know and scatter them about like gospel tracts. Hope some of them grow into oak trees that last generations. I'm tired of describing everything as liminal. I would like for something to be written on the return label, for the sidewalk to dry, for our song to be pressed into vinyl forever. Let's stay focused and make do with what we have, even if we step off the plane with nothing but a guitar. For example, on David. Let me see. Okay, I think I'm done.
Thank you so much, Nick. I love that poem a lot, and it's really awesome to have gotten to hear it live and in person. Again, that was Nick Bond, who you can find on Twitter at 1millionhorses, 1000000HORSES. And please keep up with Nick's work at nicholasbond.com, NICHOLASBON.com, and check out My Circus Mouth, which is available from Ghost City Press. Yeah. It's so different to hear it out loud. I love that. So shockingly, we're already in the back half of our reading order for the evening, which again always blows my mind how quickly these things go. But I'm really excited to introduce a performance anxiety veteran returner, and that is Sarah Kersey. Sarah Kersey is a poet and X-ray technologist from New Jersey. She's an associate editor for South Florida Poetry Journal and a features reader for The Rumpus. She has work forthcoming in The Rumpus and in the Langston Hughes Review. Thank you so much, Sarah, for being with us today and for coming back to Performance Anxiety.
Thank you for inviting me back. I hesitate to call myself a veteran, only being second time, but appreciate it. So, excuse me. So, I really had no idea what I was going to read, but I think I figured it out. I'm going to start with a work in progress, which is called Proprioception as Conversation. And the definition of proprioception is perception or awareness of the position and movement of the body. So in more explicit terms, the reason why adults don't stab their face when they use a fork is because of proprioception. They're able to coordinate their hand with their mouth. And that's why babies, when they try to eat, they get food all over their face, because their sense of proprioception is not as keen as an adult's. And with this poem, I had the idea of what if a speaker's body parts could talk to each other, and what would they say? So this is a work in progress. Again, it's called Proprioception as Conversation. Can everybody hear me and see me? Because I have a Word doc up. Okay, good. I never know with these things. Your nails are long, said the right eye to the left foot. The big toe is poking through the sock, it replied. I hope no one notices. She still hasn't done laundry. Left foot and right foot walk together every morning. They have a morning chat under the toilet. Have you been crampy? A little spazzy? The right foot asks the left. Yes, says the left. I can't believe tension travels this far down. I don't know what we should do. Meanwhile, bladder finishes voiding. Labia minora and majora still wet from the night before. Right hand moves in to wipe. Left hand instantly jumps salty. I heard you last night with clitoris. Next time, let me join in. Why am I always stuck up at the nipples? Right hand is feeling itself now, because I know what to do. Besides which, don't they call you stranger? The left hand tells the truth. I think our owner is afraid of trying new things and you're just enabling her. After the toilet, the owner tries exercising with the hula hoop. She can't keep it at rest at her waist or hips. The hoop is a spinning top that longs for bottom, longs for ground. Waist and hips ask each other, are we still untouched by another's hands? Is the owner still afraid to move us? But what would you be moving towards? The brain shouted below. Waist and hips make a suggestion. Can't you hold her dear one near? It might loosen her up. We just want her to get some movement. The brain shuts down. I won't. Guess you'll have to stop now. And she stopped. I hold your red as dead and pray it will not burst. That I won't get sick from your kiss is a gamble, so I avoid your affection. I'd rather marvel at your gait and your resulting swagger. You are sexy because the right femoral head doesn't quite articulate with the acetabulum. That's Latin for wine goblet. I imagine your hip is tipsy, your pelvis getting a little head rush, your member raising a toast. Then we spill ourselves. I'm more interested in the underpinnings of our bedding than what we do in our fabric fortress. I want to know if it can last, and if we can. Because, darling, did you know when you're cremated, the body does a little more boiling and a little less burning? So again, that's a work in progress. Next, we'll do another work in progress. This is from, I have to get my desk situated. This is from a long poem that I'm working on. I'm gonna read like the shortest little snippet. I'll get to the page. Okay. So this is an excerpt. The working title, at least at this point, is called An Ending. And I'm gonna pick up kind of in the middle of things. At Seminary Co-op, I hide between the bookcases, high-rise buildings. All the windows are lit. Window shopping in French is lèche vitrine, or licking the glass. There's such intentionality behind that phrase. It ends with a purchase to be worn. People look at you and want you, but aren't sure if it's because of what you licked for. Begging can be beautiful too. My arms, stiff as spines, crack open. I'm readable and ready. Then the time came. I came out from the shelves. I reached for a hand, not firm, not dead fish, just reassuring. I'm shocked that outstretched hand accepted this one. I have rusty nails. I have hangnails like nagging weeds I uproot weekly. I bleed. They grow back. My hands are salty from looking back. Cracks, corrosion, tinny capillaries, fault lines, the ones from folded fists for 9 months. I hold them like histories I don't know what to do with. I mold these putty palms into another so we'll have something in common. In addition to form, 206, the number of times someone greedily consumes her, then rearranges her bones into an idol. No, the body is like the Bible. It begins, then it fights and threatens, then fights and forgives and sacrifices and forbids, then ends with a revelation. It lies open and vulnerable, well worn and known, at odds. Limbs versus trunk, bowels versus breasts, kidneys versus canines. You'd only know this if you read the Bible, but the Bible is likened to a sword, and faith is likened to a shield. Across the battlefield, I surrender, my shield breaks. Now I am brave. It is not a choice. It is a state in a larger country. So again, that is nowhere near done, but it's something. Okay. Tom, how am I on time?
Incredibly perfect. Keep going.
Incredibly perfect. Yikes. Okay. All right. Another work in progress. I'm just reading works in progress tonight, I guess. This one is called Subterranean Sisterhood. I emptied my mother's safe deposit box at the bank. After the box was drilled open, I was led to an adjacent room to remove her belongings. I was left alone because of procedure. Among the gold, all the gold I somehow had to leave the bank with, I found the bracelet I remember as a nosy child who combed through her mother's bedroom. A custom bracelet with names I knew, but couldn't read yet. Catherine and Sarah. I still can't read them. The letters oscillate underwater each time I try. My sister and I took garden tools and believed we could reach the mantle. We worked tirelessly to dig a hole on a hill in our backyard. One day, the hole would be deep enough to need a ladder. Except, most days, my spade couldn't break the roots of a nearby tree. My little hands pulled, and pulled, and pulled, and pulled. They didn't realize how strong roots are, even the ones that looked like small ropes. They form a net which holds things down and keeps things out. My sister wrote a research paper in high school all about the US phone system. She let me read it and excitedly explained what comprises a phone number. The first 3 digits are the area code. The second set is the exchange. I don't remember what the last 4 digits are, or the last 4 of my sister's social security number. I didn't ID her the way the government did. They pulled her out from a drawer. I told the man I claimed her. I also claimed the preservatives replacing her blood, the tag on her right toe. I, for once, claimed a name which felt dirty. I'm glad neither of us changed our name to Thomas, because we belonged to each other, apart from our mother. Kerseys are terrible people, and this was our terrible moment. Before I left, I reached into the gash alongside her abdomen, left the things I could no longer carry in this life, like how you took apart and reassembled a computer faster than your white male classmates, the fastest on record. You were 2/100ths of a point from being salutatorian. Instead of having it be a shared honor, the school ranked you third in your class because you were Black. It still pisses me off. You were somehow unbothered by that. You always liked me best, and it was never a problem. Mom always told us not everyone would love us. I left what I am with you. I left my love with you. I continue loveless in this life because I know where to dig for it. There is a place, a plot of dirt, a most solitary place on earth. Your grave is love I lay flowers on. The mantle is made of rocks and ices, solid but viscous, yet warmer than crust given its proximity to the core. We wanted to descend into the earth because we lived on a snapping, shifting, changeable layer. At night, when I hobble myself to bed and the ground rattles the house, I lift my head, feel the sway, and think, I'm still drunk, and go back to sleep. I can't help but think Dad does this too, 90 minutes away. Other nights, when the ground sharply swells, I'm startled awake, unsure of where I am and why I'm alone. I can't help but think Mom does this too from her bed at the facility, 40 minutes away. Yet, you sleep through it all. You sleep through all of it. You're only 6 feet and a ladder away. And I think I'm going to call it for tonight. Thank you all.
Wow, damn. Thank you, Sarah. That was incredible. The applause you're hearing is deeply, deeply deserved. Again, that was Sarah Kersey, who shared with us some amazing new shit, which is a performance anxiety tradition, some works in progress that, if those are your drafts, Sarah, I'm just completely bowled over. And again, Sarah Kersey is on Twitter at @SK_poet. And not only is Sarah an incredible poet, but also she's editing essays for The Rumpus, and so she wanted to remind our readers that the reading period for essays at The Rumpus is currently open. Also, if you want to write poems like that, she's doing a craft talk for the Estuary Collective on February 20th. So she'll be sitting with D. Nicole Andrews, who's the editor of The Hellbore, and doing a close read of her poem When Atlantis Went Under, It Broke Us. It'll be hosted by Jenny De La O, another performance anxiety alum, and tickets and full information can be found on Estuary Collective's website, which is estuarycollective.org, ESTUARYCOLLECTIVE. Damn. So yeah, that was spectacular, Sarah. Thank you so much. And I'm very excited to introduce our next reader, who's a newcomer to performance anxiety, someone whose poems and literary citizenship I deeply admire, and that's Lindsey Heatherly. Lindsey is a pushcart-nominated writer born and raised in upstate South Carolina. She has words in X-Ray, Red Fez, Emrys Journal, Pithead Chapel, and more. When she's not working, she spends her time at home raising a strong, confident daughter. You can find her on Twitter at Ryden Mardsey, which is RYDANMARDSEY. And Lindsey, take it away. Thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. Sarah, that was incredible. So I'm just going to get started. I've got, I think, 3 of them that I'm going to read. This first one is called Mania. Hell, I know I've fucked up 1,000 different times in a million different ways, and that sometimes holding on is gripping sheets by the fistful and packing fabric into the hole in your chest until it reaches your legs, your feet, your arms, your hands, until your body is the escape route for your mind. Tell me what thing I did that broke the grace appointed me at birth. Tell me what it was I did so terribly for this hell to come round and round, like clockwork, round and round, a carousel of tricks, ways to die, ways to try to not slip through the cracks every damn time. That was the first one. The next one, this one is called The Night I Met God in the Drugstore. I met God at the aisle between analgesics and wound care. I was no longer in search for healing, so I settled for superficial repairs. He offered to cleanse me, to save me from myself. So he took a box of Band-Aids, peeled each one apart, and placed them across his skin. He said, I am the body, and I asked if he would remember me. Hush, child, he whispered, as his index finger brushed my cheek and landed upon my lips. Healing is given to those who want to be saved. And then the other one I'm going to read, it's a work in progress also, so bear with me there. I don't really have a title for it yet, so I'm just going to go with it. I want to rearrange my bedroom so the mattress is in a different spot, angled differently from the night you dropped by and planted your head between my legs for longer than you ever had before. I do not want to remember how you wanted me only months before the two of you met. You make soup for her now, homemade, and I wonder if you still have the orange soup bowl I left on your doorstep the night I made potato soup, homemade, that Wednesday you had to work late, the first in a line of days of not seeing you again. And the thing is, I do not want to sleep next to the window, but when I get all sleepy, I look up and see your face in the doorway, your salt and pepper beard, so maybe I will sleep beside the window anyway. And that's all I had planned. I don't know how I am on time. This seems to just go so quickly while you're in it.
Yeah, you're doing amazing on time, so if you want to read more, please consider doing so.
Okay. Let me hurry. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll read two more. I've got one. This is like my happier one. So this one is Chandelier Made of Spoons. I was browsing in that little bookstore, the one with a chandelier made of spoons, across from the restaurant with the grilled salmon salad you like, when I picked up that book of poetry before I wondered if I could ever write something like that myself. The song that played overhead reminded me of the sweet scent on your collar, specific to hands that knead bread dough in a bakery, when you embraced me in the middle of that crowded downtown sidewalk. I longed to ask the cashier if she knew the song and tried desperately to remember a string of the words to look up later. But the melody charmed me into a stupor that transported me to autumn leaves and cobblestones and my gray jacket and sapphire scarf wrapped around my neck like your arm hugged around my waist. So when I walked up to the counter to ask the cashier about the song, it had already passed. So instead I asked about the necklaces that hung on display, made of repurposed antique keys, and I wondered if one might unlock a door to distant memories so that I could meet you on that crowded sidewalk and feel your hands warming my neck while our breath warmed the air. But I am pulled back to reality when the cashier mentions each one is handmade by a local artist, and I am reminded that you carved permanent grooves into my heart, and I wonder if you ever realized that you are an artist yourself. And then I'll read one more. This one is Honey for Houseflies. You wave the back of your hand and strap up your jaw. Leave honey out for houseflies and cover your ears as you pray. You read your biography and smash the pages into your skin. Maybe the words will stick this time. You cry when you forget, and you know mountains do too. So you collect dandelions and crush them into your chest. You wait for them to take root and spread among your desert heart, for there are places even weeds refuse to grow. And that's all I got. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Lindsey, for those poems and for joining us tonight. That again was Lindsey Heatherly, who you can find on Twitter and I think also Instagram at Rydenmardsey, which is RYDANMARDSEY. And Lindsey also has an amazing project called Handwritten with Love that can be followed on Twitter at writes_with_ink, where she's handwriting poems and other pieces of writing that people have shared and posting pictures of the beautiful handwritten products, which have been really great. And also you can find Lindsey's work sort of collated all together on a website, which is Red Willow, R3DWILLOW.wixsite.com/Rydenmardsey, Mardsey. So thank you again, Lindsey, for joining us. We're at our penultimate reader of the night already. Again, like Lindsey said, it flies by, and I'm worried that someday you guys are going to find out that I remember the timer for the first reader and a half, and then I forget it afterwards and just say, read more poems. So, that's kind of how time is feeling for me at this point. But this next reader is someone I'm very excited to introduce, a very, very good friend whose poems work otherwise everything I'm always so excited to get to read and hear, and that's Joe Ianni. And Joe is a poet and performance artist from Toronto. Joe has not told me what Joe's going to do tonight, so I'm very excited to see where you take this, Joe. Take it away. Hopefully I don't know if I can hear you right this second, Joe, though. You're very distant sounding. Toronto Power, yeah, Jake in the chat. How about now?
That?
Yeah, I think I can hear you. I'm going to mute so I can stop taking up the airwaves.
Well, I'll read as loud as I can, and hopefully you guys can hear okay. So Tom asked me to read, and this time I said yes. Though he knows my worries of public scare quotes reading in particular, especially in the times we occupy. So I've been thinking deeply about reading, how to do it and how to be honest about it, about what can be done with or what is done by reading. I want to read 3 small poems, and if I had the time, and I know unfortunately we don't, I would go more into my reading of them, how they are in some ways made mine, that is part of me to be responsible and account for in my continuous reading of them. That is, reading is for me provision, improvisation, and collaborative. Reading is everything I want it to be and can be, at times a sincere expression of nothing. So it is abundance and lack. I wish I could say more about these 3 poems as I read them, flutter them, blanket them with about how I read them, and how they are read in the present continuous. Say this, that they all have something to do with relation to my friendship, this relation both inventive and imposition. I am in with Tom, or I am with Tom, whose name means twin, or who I think of oftentimes as a loving brother. This is Hua Huan's Eve from Violet Energy Ingots. Eve. I could be naked and eating figs. Instead, I'm a rib woman howling and chased by a winged god baby. A man is embarrassed, kicked out of the world garden to become farmers. The next is Noel Cocot's The Work from God's Green Earth. The work. Inside a straight line, there is solace. In water, there is a small gift. The heart's souvenirs pile up under the tongue. It's easy now to do the work, always becoming a scent on the path. And lastly, I want to read An Amplifier Jar by Tom Snarsky. An amplifier jar. A teeny tiny orison plonks into the pond. Its little ripple working at healing outward. I'm going to read that one more time. A teeny tiny orison plunks into the pond, its little ripple working at healing outward. And that's it. I'm going to leave it there.
Thank you so much, Joe, for those poems. You're going to blow my head up the size of a melon, this kind of thing. That was, again, Joe Ianni sharing with us some of his reading, and I'm always extremely grateful for Joe's friendship. And we'll hear some of his poems one day, but although I don't know if he'd like that possessive exactly. But again, that was Joe Ianni, who you can find on Twitter and Instagram at WTFisapoet, WTFISAPOET. And yeah, like, I'm extremely honored, Joe. Thank you for sharing that, and for doing such a beautiful reading of that poem. And at this point, I get to express some gratitude because as a host, I got to hear some incredibly amazing poets tonight. So I want to say thank you so much to all of our readers so far for sharing their incredible work with us this evening. Thank you, too, to our listeners, both live and in the call and online, for giving this hour or so of your lives over to poetry. I hope if you're listening, you might consider dropping us a line at Performance Anxiety, Performance ANXT on Twitter, or at my email, which is tomsnarsky@gmail.com. If you'd ever like to share your work at a future event, I know we have some folks here who will be future readers, and I'm very, very excited about that. Our next reading will be on February 18th at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. There are definitely slots still open, so please do get in touch. And usually I would close out Performance Anxiety readings by sharing a poem, and it's usually by someone else. And again, Joe has, spoiled me. I've gotten to, drop another poem on these airwaves too. Fortunately, I learned between last Performance Anxiety reading and this one that my full-length collection of poems, my first one, which is going to be called Light Up Swan, was accepted for publication later this year by Mark Harris at Ornithopter Press. So with some thanks in advance for y'all out there indulging this, to sort of close out tonight's festivities, I'd like to read the two bookend poems from Light Up Swan. So I'm going to actually read the last one first and the first one last. So thank you again so much for listening. And here is the very last poem in Light Up Swan called Truth and Love. And then there'll be one more after that. Truth and Love. There are a million things I should be doing right now that aren't writing a poem, so I'll write a poem. I'm using an old note on my phone, so I promise the title is not premeditated. It's just something one of my students said during the usual Wednesday afternoon meeting of the Malden High School Philosophy Club. It was the start to her rejoinder, quote, "So back to the truth and love thing," end quote. We had been discussing the question, what is love? And we could not agree if love was closer to truth or to untruth. Like when Proust's jealous lover thinks Albertine is cheating, or when one student talks about how her sister says she loves her abusive boyfriend, even went back to him. She said, how can we know what it's like from the outside? I hear this and think about how no one would understand Lolve Stein if she explained herself. And then someone else says, sometimes even on the inside you don't know. Like you could think everything's fine, but you're really hurting the person you love, or you're calling something love that isn't. And now we're talking about labels. Who can call what? And two students gesture at my Bi Pride flag during their stories about how they relate to that label, what coming out was like for them. The munchkins are almost gone, and we agree we'll continue next week talking about labels. We haven't gotten to the bottom of it yet. Like this laundry pile, I should be putting away instead of writing this. And the last poem I'm going to share tonight, and thank you again for listening, and this will be the closing of the reading that included a lot of amazing readers who I was very grateful to hear. This is the first poem in Light Up Swan, and it's called The Starfield Paintings. I'm here to mail a letter. It will kill me, but I don't mind. I just assumed Corinthians were flowers. One kind of pain can hide another. Like in one starfield painting of the city, there are no stars at all because the light from below is too much. But in another starfield painting, from a less lit place, That auditorium of tiny, bright dots drowns out any light from below. It is easy to forget that the stars have already solved the problem of the one and the many. In the day, there is one, and at night, the many sing a work song carrying our oily night on their backs.